Greetings. This week we are in chapter 7 and we'll be studying the harmonic progression and the sequence. So I recommend that you read the chapter, but we're just going to jump right in here with the homework. So on exercise 7-1, we are to complete each harmonic fragment to conform with the major mode diagram presented on page 105. The chord in the blank should be different from those on either side of it. Okay, so number 1, we have a 4 chord, and we need to know which chord or chords can fit in between there. So if we look at the diagram on page 105, this is for the major mode. You can tell that because the 1, 4, and 5 are major, right? So if you notice, we have a circle of fifths progression on the bottom. 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then we have the 4 chord and the 7 diminished on top here. So these arrows, they point to where the chords naturally tend to go. And there are some exceptions. For instance here, the 5 chord, of course, likes to go home to the 1 chord, but sometimes it wants to be deceptive and move somewhere else, like to the 6 chord, okay? Which sounds really cool, because you're expecting to go home, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're jumping up to a minor chord. It's like, wow, we're not finished yet, okay? So that's a good one. And it's also good to know that the 1 chord can move to any chord it wants at any time, and any chord can move to the 1 chord, okay? And also any chord can move to the 5 chord, okay? The 5 tends to go to 1. Sometimes it goes to the 6. Sometimes it'll go to the 3. It depends on the composer. So we see the 3 likes to go to the 4, and sometimes the 4 likes to go to 2, and then directly to 1, like at a plagal cadence. 7 diminished, it always goes to 1, and the 2 likes to go to the 5 or the 7. These chords are somewhat interchangeable. Both have a strong pull to the tonic, and the 7 diminished having the strongest pull. So there's that. And in our first question, we had the example, what was it? 4, and what chord would go in between the 4 chord and the 1 chord? So if we look at our diagram again, there's 2 chords that would go between the 4 and the 1. The 7 diminished and the 5, the dominant. So we'll put that here. Diminished or 5. Okay. Now number 3. What would go between the 1 chord and the 2 chord? Well, if we look at the 2 likes to go to the 5 or the 7 as well. 2-5-1 is very common, especially in jazz. They're everywhere. as well as pop and rock and other genres too, but especially in jazz. So we'll put the 7 diminished and the 5. That's very common in classical too. It's a beautiful progression. Now, number 5, we have the 7 diminished, between the 7 diminished and the 6 chord. Okay, so we know that the 7 diminished, it only likes to go to the 1 chord. Okay, so there's our answer there. And we're done with that section. Okay, so go ahead and fill out the rest, and I will see you in the next section for part B. Okay, so here we are, part B, and we are to bracket any portions of these progressions that do not conform to the chord diagrams on page 105. So, number 1 is in a minor key. So we have to look at the minor progression. And the only really major difference is that we have the major 7 chord going to the 3, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then we have the 7 diminished as well, because we know sometimes in the harmonic minor scale or the melodic minor scale, we'll have the raised subtonic, the raised 7th scale degree, and it becomes the leading tone. This is just the natural subtonic, okay? Part of the natural minor scale. So the rest of the chords like to move just as they did in major. They're just different qualities. Okay, so let's check it out. We have a 1 going to a 7, back to a 1. And we know 1 can move to any chord. So, yes, the 1 can move to the 7. And the 7 diminished does like to go to the 1. That's its primary function. So far, so good. 1 can move to 4. And let's see, does 4 like to go to 6? Well, if you look at our diagram here, 4 does not tend to go to the 6 that often, so it likes to go to the 2 or the 5 or the 7 or the 1. Okay, so let's start a little bracket there. Okay, and we know that that doesn't like to go to the 6. Does the 6 like to go to the 5? Well, any chord can move to the dominant. So, yes, that is possible. Most commonly, the 6 likes to go to the 4 or the 2. But since any chord can move to the dominant, there is an exception there. So, if you want to be strict about it from that diagram, and it says to conform to the diagram, so in this case, I guess we will include that, okay, because we're trying to conform to just the diagram. All right, so number 3, we're back in major, and we have the 1 to the 3. We know 1 can move to any chord. Now, does the 3 like to go to the 4? Now we see here, yes, that it does. And Does the 4 like to go to the 7? Yes. All right, 4 to the 7. So far so good. 7 goes to 1. Yes. 1 can move to any chord. 1, 4, 5. Very common progression. 5 to 1. I don't see any problems with this one. Okay. So we're done with this section, and I'll see you in part C. Thanks. Hi. So we're back, and we're in part C, and we're to do an analysis. So we must label all chords with Roman numerals and bass position symbols. Bracket any successions of Roman numerals that do not agree with the complete major and minor chord diagrams. In addition, provide lead sheet symbols above the top of the staff. Okay, so we have an excerpt from a piece by Bach, and we have 3 sharps in the key signature, and we're starting on an A chord, which is a good indicator of the key that we're in. A major has 3 sharps. Let's just make sure and check the end, and it ends on an A too. Okay, we have a E major to an A major, 5 to 1 cadence. So we know that it is an A major. Okay, so let's put that down here. A big A. And we have our uppercase Roman numeral for the 1 chord. So now we move on to, looks like the D major. Oh, let's put the lead sheet up here too. So we have A. Then we have a D major, D, F sharp, A in root position. And that is the 4 chord. Okay. And here we have a B, a D, a G sharp, and a B. So G sharp B D is G sharp diminished, and since it has a B in the bass, it is in first inversion. So we have a 7 diminished 6. Okay, so we'd have G sharp diminished over B. I just realized I'm not supposed to do all of these chords for you. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the next one and move on to this one. So I shouldn't have given you the D, but oh well, that's a freebie for you, okay? One of the benefits of watching these long videos. I really hope they're helpful though. So thank you. Yeah, please let me know in the comments too if they do help. It gives me encouragement. So anyhow, moving on. We have a G sharp, E, B, and an E. So that's an E major chord with a G sharp in the bass. E over G sharp. Okay. Now, so that is a 5 chord in first inversion. A 5/6. E, G sharp, B. Okay, so you'll do the next one, and I'm here now. We have the G sharp, the E, the B, and the D. So if we stack that up, E, G sharp, B, D, we have an E7 over G sharp. Okay, so let's put that E7 over G sharp, and that is a 5 chord, but since it's a 7th chord, you have to indicate that by using a 6-5. Okay, remember the inversion symbols for 7th chords. Root position is 7, first inversion 6-5, second inversion 4-3, and third inversion 4-2. So 7, 6-5, 4-3, 4-2. All right. Now we have just like an A over C sharp. You have the A, C sharp, E. And that is a 1 chord in first inversion. We're back, and you'll do that one, and I will do this one. So we have another A major, and this time it's in root position, a C sharp, E. Just a 1 chord. And then we have E major, E, G sharp, B in root position. So there's the 5. So in order to find out if these really conform to the common chord progression, you have to fill out all the chords and see how they relate to each other. So I'll let you do that, and go ahead and pull out your major chord diagram like I have here, and when you're finished, go through it and see if it conforms, and if not, put brackets anywhere that it doesn't. Okay, so have fun with that, and I'll see you in the next section. Okay, greetings. Now we're in part D, and we're to analyze the chords specified by these figured basses and add inner voices to make a 4-part texture. Bracket all circle of fifths progressions, even those that contain only 2 chords. Before beginning, review the part writing for Deceptive progressions on pages 88 and 89. Okay, so I have that here, and the progression 5 to 6 is known as the Deceptive progression, for reasons that will become clear in the next chapter. In terms of voice leading, Deceptive progressions present some special problems. In most cases, the leading tone, scale degree 7, moves parallel with the bass, resolving up to the tonic, whereas the other 2 voices move down, contrary to the bass, to the next available chord tones. This results in a doubled third in the 6th chord, as an example 6, 9, A, and B. Okay. In the major mode, if the leading tone is in an inner voice, it may move by step to 6, as an example C, because the lack of resolution is not so apparent to the ear. So it's like frustrating the leading tone in an inner voice and making it resolve somewhere other than the tonic of the key. However, this is not acceptable in the minor mode because of the awkward interval of an augmented second that results. Okay, so here we have the F sharp going down to the E flat. Okay, and E flat to F would be a major second. So E flat to F sharp is an augmented second. We want to avoid that. That happens in the minor mode, but not in the major mode, right? It's just F sharp to E, okay? So it's better to do this when you're in the minor mode, okay? You have the leading tone moving up to the G, which is the tonic, but it's also the third of the 6th chord, the E flat major, Okay. And here in the major mode, we have a D major, and it's moving to an E minor, 5 to 6. So in your 5 chord, the leading tone is the third of your chord, okay? The F sharp. And it is moving up to the tonic, okay, or the third of the 6th chord, and the other voices are moving down. See, this moves, the leading tone moves up like the bass, and then the soprano and the tenor both move down. Okay, so that creates a doubled third, and in this case we don't have the doubled third. We have the doubled root. So both of these options are good. In the minor mode, we need to stick with this option and avoid the augmented second. Okay? And the voice leading away from a triad with a doubled third must be handled carefully, because the conventions discussed in this chapter all assume doubled roots. So we'll have to watch out for that. Okay, so let's start with the homework. Now, you need to analyze the chords first and add inner voices to make a 4-part texture. Okay, so let's analyze this. We have 3 sharps in our key signature, and if you go up a half step from the last sharp, we have a G sharp, and that would go up to A. So most likely we're in the key of A major. We're starting on an A in the bass here, and we're ending on an A in the bass there. And it looks like some kind of E. Yeah, 5 to 1. So we're in A. I'll just put that down here, capital A. Alright, and we know this is a 1 chord. Now here we have an F sharp and an A. Oh, I'm sorry. We have an F sharp and an F sharp. Okay, so that's like a doubled root of the 6th chord, the minor 6. Okay. Here we have a D and an F sharp. That's almost a D major. So there's a 4 chord. And we have 2 E's. And 4 likes to go to 5. I'm thinking that's a 5 chord. And then we have an F sharp and a C sharp. Okay. So F sharp, A, C sharp would be F sharp minor, another 6 chord. Okay. And here we have a C sharp and an E. Okay, so this could be a 3 chord. It could also be a 1 chord in first inversion. Let's see. Let's try the minor 3, see how it works. And then here we have 2 D's. So there's a 4 chord. 3 likes to go to 4. And then we have an E and a B. All we need is a G sharp, and we have a 5 chord. And we're moving to 1. Okay. And so now we just need to voice the chords. And so we have an A and an E. So we want to try and double the A and add a C sharp. Let's see. best way I think to do that, because the C sharp is very close up here and it would be too far away down here. So let's just double our A in the alto and put the C sharp here in the tenor. Okay. Now we're moving to the 6th chord, F sharp minor, and I already see 2 common tones. Let's just keep those right where they're at. A and C sharp. Very smooth voice leading. Now our 4th chord, D major. So we have a D and an F sharp. Have another common tone here. And the C sharp will move nicely to the D there for a doubled root. E major, our 5th chord. Now, our root is already doubled, and so we need a G sharp and a B. Okay, so I'm thinking the D would probably not smoothly go there. Okay, so that's just a little leap. D to B is a minor 3rd, and then A can go down to the G sharp here. We'll have the alto sing a different note for a change, huh? Okay. I'm going to check for parallels real quick along the way. And everything looks good. Alright, so our 6th chord, F sharp minor, again. We have the F sharp and the C sharp. So we want to double the F sharp and add an A. So this D could move down to the A here. And then we have our F sharp here. Okay, that's a 6th to a 5th. Very good. We have a leap. The bass is moving in contrary motion. Alright, so here's our 3 chord, a C sharp minor. So C sharp, E, G sharp. We have the C sharp and the E. So we want to double the C sharp. And we need an E. So we have the E. Okay. So we need a G sharp, C sharp, E, G sharp. Let's just try this. Double the bass. Do G sharp here. And everything, all the notes are represented in the triad. Let's check for parallels really quick. F sharp to C sharp. That's going to a 6th. F sharp to C sharp also in bass and soprano, moving in contrary motion. Looks good. Alright, so our 4 chord, D major. The D is already doubled, so we need an F sharp and an A. This moves the closest chord tone here would be A, and then the F sharp here. Okay. So we're moving in parallel sixths there, that's fine. We have an octave, moving to a fifth. Very good. Let me see anything else. C to G, C sharp to G sharp is a perfect fifth. That A to F sharp is a major sixth, so we're good. Our 5 chord now. E major, so we need an E and a G sharp. Let's see. We can just keep moving down here to the E. Move in similar motion here. The G sharp. And that seems to work nicely. Here's a fifth, E to B. It's moving from an octave, that's good. Sixth to a fifth, it's fine. Okay, 5 to 1. We're going to the A major. The root is doubled. I see a common tone here. And we have to be careful with the G sharp. It's the leading tone. But it isn't an inner voice, so it doesn't have to move up to that A. Because if it did, we'd have a tripled root. And then, well, we could omit the fifth and put the third here on the C sharp. That's one way of doing it. Or we could keep the common tone here. And then the third of our chord here. G sharp to C sharp. Pops up a fourth. And as long as there's no parallels, we're good. Okay, so octave, that's good. Fifth to an octave. Okay, so that worked out nicely. Now let's see if there's anywhere that doesn't conform to the harmonic progression. Or actually, let's bracket the circle of fifths progression. Okay. So, and that can be between any two chords. And I don't see any. Be 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. There's no 2, 5. Well, there's a 5, 1. That's a circle of fifths, right? And there we go. Okay. Okay, for this next one, you need to be careful. When you determine the key, you will find that it is in minor. And when you see these naturals here, that just means to raise the leading tone. Okay? So the third of your 5 chord is going to be a natural. Okay? I'm not going to give it away, but just be aware of that. Okay? And then I will see you, and we'll do number 3 together. Okay, so here we are, number 3, and I need to realize this figured bass line with the chord progression. So it looks like we're in the key of C, and we have a G to a C, 5 to 1, so we are in C. Okay, so this would be 1 chord, C major. And if we follow the bass notes, it would be E minor. And we have the B in there too. So E, G, B would be the E minor. And then F, A, C, F major, the 4 chord. 2 G's. We have 5 chord. And then the A would be minor 6. And this could be F major. So back to the 4 chord. And here's a D and an F, D minor. There's a 2, a G and a D. So it'd be 5. And 2 G's. Still 5. And back to the 1 with the C. Okay, so now it's time to voice the chords. The C is already doubled, so we need an E and a G. So let's try the E here and a G here. Okay. And for the E minor, that would leave 2 common tones. Doubled the root of the chord. And we're on the F. So we have an F and an A. So we need another F and a C. So it looks like the smoothest way would be like this. Okay. Don't see any parallel octaves or fifths yet. And we're on the G. So we need a D and a B. And the closest voices, the nearest chord tones are here. Okay. So we're going 5 to 6, the deceptive progression. So the leading tone, which is B, likes to move up. So the tonic, which is the 3rd of the A minor chord, and then the rest of the notes also move down to their nearest chord tones. So we've doubled the 3rd, just like it talked about in the example. So that's good voicing. And we're off with F major. And we have a common tone here. And there's our A there, F, A, C. And the D minor. We have a common tone there. Now we'll just move the C up to the D. Now for the G major, this is about the only place we can put that B so we can double the G. All right. Now, if we keep the common tone here, the B, and the common tone here with the G, those are octaves, but they're moving static motion. So we have an incomplete 5 chord. All right, we've omitted the 5th, the D. There's no longer a D. And so that means we can do a complete one chord. The leading tone will go up to the tonic, and we'll keep the G as a common tone. And there it is. So that went pretty smoothly. Now we just need to bracket any circle of fifths progression. So looks like we have the 2-5-1 there. Okay, so that's it, and I will see you in the next section. Thanks. Hi, so we're back again, and we're on part G, and the following are 2 unfigured bass lines. And using triads in root position and first inversion only, we are to show a good harmonization of each one by placing Roman numerals below the bass line. Be sure to refer to the diagrams on page 105 while you work on your harmonizations. So I'm going to do number 1, and you get to do number 2. And so the diagrams on 105, this will come in handy. Remember that one. And I also have another one. And this is from Toby Rush. And it's a really cool little easy guide to remember. Now, there's a pattern. You can go up a second, down a third, or down a fifth. Okay? So it's a pattern that works, and it follows the common practice period style of writing pretty well, and not as strictly as the other from the book. So here's a couple exceptions. We talked about these already. Any chord can move to 1 to the tonic, and the 1 can move to any chord. Okay, any chord can move to the dominant, and the leading tone triad must move to the tonic. Okay, so up a second, down a third, down a fifth, or you can think of it up a second, down a third, up a fourth. Okay, because these invert, right? Fifths invert to fourths, fourths invert to fifths, thirds invert to sixths, seconds invert to sevenths, right? So however you like it. So we'll keep that in mind, and keep this nearby. And let me zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, so here we go. And we're in, I think, the key of B flat. We have 2 flats, and there's no F sharps in the piece anywhere, no accidentals to indicate G minor. Here we have an F to a B flat, it'd be like a 5-1, and it starts in B flat. There we go, B flat. And why don't we just start with the 1 chord? And we have an F, so that could be the 5 chord, which is a good way to establish the key right off the bat. That is also the 3rd of the 3 chord. We could do that. Let's see, what other chord could that be? So you'd have to have the D in it. So the D minor, the 3 chord, the B flat major, or the G minor. That'd be the 5th of the G minor. But we're only supposed to use root position and first inversion. So let's go ahead and go with the 5. Yeah, sorry. There. Okay, now we have the G. And the G is part of the 6th chord. It's the root of the 6th chord, minor. So we could go 5 to 6, right? The Deceptive progression. And let's see what else. The 4 chord would be the 3rd of the 4 chord. So it'd be like E flat major in first inversion. But that'd be going 5 to 4. And that doesn't really work. That's kind of like a retrogression. So why don't we just go to the 6, do the Deceptive movement. And here we have an E flat. And that could be the 4 chord, the root of the 4 chord. Or it's the 3rd of the 2 chord, the C minor chord, C, E flat, G. 6-2 is a good movement. 6-4 also works. Right? So if we're on the G minor chord, the 6th chord, if we move down a 3rd, okay, that would move us down to E flat, which is the root of the 4 chord. And also here, it shows the 6 also going to the 4. So we have a choice. We can go to the 2 chord or the 4 chord. And let's see. 6-2. Then we have a D minor, possibly the 3 chord. Can the 2 go to the 3 chord? Well, by Toby Rush standards, yes, it can move. You can move up a 2nd. Okay, so that's a possibility. I'm just going to go with the E flat major, so let's go with the 4 chord. And then 4, it shouldn't be going to the 3, that's like a retrogression. And it doesn't indicate that here or here, right? So what if we made it a 1-6, right? A B flat over D. 4 can go to 1, right? Any chord can go to 1. Okay, so here we are. We have a C in the bass. Now, the C would be the root of the 2 chord. Okay, so that's a possibility. 1 can go to 2. Or it would be the 3rd of the A diminished. So that would be the 7 diminished triad in first inversion, which it's most commonly used in. So, and it's going to a B flat. So that could be a 7 diminished 6 to 1. And then we could just finish it off. We have E flat, F, G. So we could do a 4-5-1. And we're done. Yeah, so this follows the guidelines and looks like a nice progression. So go ahead and fill out number 2, and I'll see you in the next section. Thank you. Hi, so here we are in part H, and we are to harmonize the following melodies by using root position, major or minor. not diminished triads, in an acceptable progression. Try to give the bass a good contour while avoiding parallel and direct fifths and octaves with the melody. Be sure to include analysis. Finally, add 1 or 2 inner parts to make a version for a 3-part or 4-part chorus as indicated. But I think we're only doing 4-part choruses. So I'm going to start with number 1, and it is for a 4-part chorus. SATB in the key of G. All right, we're starting on a G, ending on a G. And it says G, so yeah, it makes it easy. All right, so I took the liberty of harmonizing the G major scale here. This is what I like to do when I'm going to create a chord progression. It helps you to see the chords and the notes which belong to them, and that way we can find the melody notes and we can choose the chords from there. Okay, so let's do the first one, and we'll just create a bass line right now. So we're in the key of G, and our first note is a G, and let's make our first chord a 1 chord. Okay, so let's start with the G here, and there we go. Okay, 1 is done. Now we have the A, so let's find out what chords the A belongs to. Of course, it belongs to the A minor, it's the root, and it's the 5th of the D, the 5 chord, and it's the 3rd of the F sharp diminished. So we can choose the 2 chord, the 5 chord, or the 7 diminished chord. Okay. And let's see. So the 2 chord would be A minor. 1 can go to 2. 1 can move to any chord. And plus, it's just moving up a second. So is that the best choice, though? The 5 chord is a good choice for establishing the key right off the bat. 1, 5. And the 7 diminished will also work because we have a B here, and that is part of the G chord. So the 7 diminished could go to the 1 here. But I don't know, I think we'll go with the 5. Okay. Now G to D, that creates a 5th here, but that's fine. It's not a direct 5th, because if it was a direct 5th, the soprano would have to leap, right? Not move by step, it would have to leap. And then the bass would have to move in similar motion into an octave or a 5th. Okay, so we're cool there. Now, we have a B in the melody. So let's find out what chords we can use. This one. Which chords have the B in it? So the G major, it's the 3rd. The B minor, it's the root. And the E minor, it's the 3rd. No, E, G, B. It's the 5th of the E minor chord. So we could use a 1, a 3, or a 6. Okay, so can the 5 go to 3? Well, yes, it can. Let's see, so the 3 chord would be B minor, and that would be moving down a 3rd. All right, and with Toby Rush, all right, we talked about that. That's one of the rules: up a 2nd, down a 3rd, or down a 5th. I can't find that paper here, but oh no, sorry. Okay, so we can use the B minor. That'd be the 3 chord. We can go back to 1. Go back to the G. And let's see. We could also use the E minor, the 6 chord. 5 will go to 6. All right. The 6 chord. This could be the 6 as well. So if this can go to 3, I'm seeing a 3, 6. Okay, that's a circle of fifths progression, which is nice. So let's do the B here. B minor, and then the 6 chord E minor. It'll be here. Okay. And so far there are no contrary octaves or anything. This is a fifth going to an octave, octave going to a fifth, right? No leap in the soprano, no worries. Now, so the 6th chord is E minor, and now we have a C. So, what chords does the C belong to besides the C? So it is the 3rd of the A minor, the 2. It's the root of the C chord, and it is the 3rd of the F sharp diminished, the 7 chord. Okay, so we can use the 2, the 4 chord, or the 7 chord. Alright, so 6 can go to 4. 6 can also go to 2. I'm not really interested in the 7 diminished here. It won't work because the A is not part of the G chord, and the 7 diminished must go to 1. Okay, so 3, 6, 2. Okay. So the 2 chord is A minor, and that will put us right here with the A. So I'm going to move the 2 down a little bit there. 2. Now the A major, I'm sorry, the A is part of the A minor triad, the 2 chord. It is the 3rd of the F sharp diminished, F sharp AC, and it is the 5th of the D major chord, the 5 chord. 2, 5, 1. So we have the D, and we can go down to G for the big finish, the low G. So we have 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay? See, the 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 is a circle of fifths progression. So that worked out nicely. Yes. Okay. No parallels. Good. Good. Okay. So now it's time to voice it. All right, so the G major, we need a B and a D. So the easiest way to see that right now is right here. Okay, there's our 1 chord. Now our 5, D major. So we have the D and the A. So we need an F sharp, and we need to double the D. We have a common tone. Just double the D there, and then bring the F sharp here. Okay, bass and tenor moving in thirds. And now we have B minor, The B is already doubled, so we need a D and an F sharp. And you got two common tones right there. That chord practically voiced itself, right? Looking good. Now, E. E minor. So we have the E and the B. So we need to double the E and add a G. So, moving to the nearest chord tones, the F sharp will move nicely to the G, and the D will move nicely up to E. Okay, 6th to 5th, very good. All right, 5th to 3rd, okay. Octave to 5th, just checking for parallels real quick, and we're good. Okay, so the two chord A minor, A, C, E. We have the A and the C. There's an E for a common tone, very nice. And the G moves nicely up to the A octave there. Perfect. All right, so our 5 chord, D major, D, F sharp, A. I see a common tone there, there's an A. And the E moves nicely up to the F sharp there, which is the leading tone. This is a 5-to-1 cadence. And you need to be careful with these. The leading tone is in an inner voice, and so we can frustrate it. It doesn't have to go to the tonic. It's in an inner voice, right? So we can make it jump down a third to the D, all right? There's the 5th of our chord. The A moves nicely up to a B. And there's a 3rd of our chord. Okay. So, we have complete triads in both. That's because the leading tone is in an inner voice. Okay. So, this looks really good. Go ahead and do number 2. I would do SATB, and then I'll see you for number 3. All right, thanks, bye. Okay, so here we are on number 3, and we're in E flat major. So here's the melody, and I say, why don't we start on the 1 chord? So let's put an E flat in the bass. There we go. We'll do the bass line first. So G is our next melody note. Let's see what chords the G belongs to. Alright, so the G is the 3rd of the E flat major chord. It's the root of the G minor chord. And it's the 5th of the C minor chord. So we can choose the 1, the 3, or the 6. Okay. Now, the 1 chord can go to any of those chords. But right now I think we'll just stay on the 1 chord. So, there we go. And let's see, we have a B flat, and we know that that is the root of the 5 chord. It's also the 5th of the 1 chord, and it's the 3rd of the 3 chord. So we can choose the 1, the 3, or the 5 chord. let's see, instead of going or staying on the 1, let's try going to the 5. Establish the key, and I'll put a B5 here. Okay, so now we have the G again, and we know that that is the root of the G minor, the 3 chord. It's the 3rd of the E flat major, the 1 chord, and it's the 5th of the C minor, the 6 chord. So 5 going to 6 is the Deceptive movement, and that might work out nicely. And so let's try that. We'll go to C there. Okay. And see, we have the A now. Let's see what chords the A belongs to. The A belongs to, I'm sorry, the A flat belongs to the F minor. It's the 3rd, so it belongs to the 2 chord. It's the root of the 4 chord, and it is the 5th of the 7 diminished chord. But we're not to use diminished triads in this exercise, so we can choose the 2 chord, or we can choose the 4 chord. And since this is the 6, why not try the circle of 5ths type progression and go to the 2. Okay, so that would be F. I can put that there. Now we have an F, and that is the root of the 2 chord. It is also the 5th of the 5 chord, and it's the 3rd of the diminished. So we can use the 2 or the 5. And 6, 2, 5 is a circle of 5ths progression, so let's stick with that. Then we have the E flat, 5, 1. So we have a 6, 2, 5, 1. And then we have the F again. So let's see, let's do the E flat here before we get too far. 1, and then 5, and 1 to make a strong finish at the end. Five, 1, 5, 1. All right. So there's our chord progression and the bass line. So now all we have to do is fill in the missing inner voices. Okay, so in the E flat major, we need a G and a B flat. Both the E flats are covered, so you can put the G here and the B flat there. Okay. Now, if we keep the common tones, we would end up doubling the 3rd of the chord. And we want to try and double the root of the chord. So we can closely move the G up to B flat here, and then double the root there. Okay. Now our 5 chord. We have B flat major, and the B flat's already doubled, so we need a D and an F. And the closest way to get to the D would be here. And the closest way to get to the F would be like this. So we want to move with the nearest chord tone if possible. Okay. And so far, I don't see any parallels. Moving good, moving right along. So our 6th chord, the C minor, would have C, E flat, and G. So we've got the root in the 5th. So we need an E flat and a G. We don't need the G. We need a C and an E flat. So this D can move nicely right down to C. Okay, and then the F can move back to the E flat here. Very smooth voice leading. No parallels. Good. Okay, so now we're on the 2 chord, the F minor. So that has F, A flat, and C. We've got the F and the A flat. So we need an F and a C. We've already got a common tone here. Let's keep that and move the E flat back to F again. And we're good. Okay. Now our 5 chord. B flat major, B flat D, F. So we've got the F. This C will move nicely to the B flat. And we're doubled there, doubled root. And then we just move up, hop down a 3rd to the D there. And that looks good. So our 1 chord, E flat. Let's see, the root is already doubled. We could follow the leading tone up and keep the B flat here, but then we wouldn't have a 3rd of our triad. We need the G in there. The only note that we can omit is the 5th. So since the leading tone is in an inner voice, we can frustrate it and move it down to make a complete chord. So we'll put the B flat here and the G here. Okay. I'm gonna check for parallels quickly, and we're good. So 1 to 5, B flat. Okay, so we're going to need to double the B flat. Yeah, I think that would be voice cry. That would be a spacing error if we put the B flat here and the D there. And also, if we tried to put the D up here and the B here, it would be voice crossing. So I don't want spacing errors or voice crossing. So let's move this on up back to the D, and then we'll double our root there. Okay. So there's another complete triad, complete 5. Going to 1, we have the leading tone in an inner voice. And we have a common tone here. So let's try to keep that common tone. And this time, we can easily move that leading tone up to tonic. And we have a complete one chord. So, yeah, it looks good. There are no parallels that I can see. And we have the complete 5-1 because we have the leading tone in the inner voice, and the complete 5-1 here. So this is a nice little progression. 1, 5, 6, 2, 5, 1, 5, 1. So very much circle of fifths based progression. All right, so go ahead and do number 4, and I recommend you write it out. The harmonized scale, the key that you're in, like I did here, and then you can easily pick out the notes. Okay, so I'll see you for the final review section, and enjoy. Okay, and here we are, part J. We are to label the chords with Roman numerals and bass position symbols where needed. Okay, so here's an example. C minor, the 4 chord would be F minor, and it's in first inversion. Okay, so here we go, bass clef, F minor, and we have A flat, C, F. Okay, the same chord in bass clef. So we have an F minor chord in first inversion. So in the key of F minor, that would be the 1, 6. See that? You see the 6, 3? That's first inversion. 6, 4 would be second inversion. And here we are, bass clef again, in G major. We have a root position triad. You can tell by the way it's stacked. B, D, F sharp. That would be the B minor triad. And G, A, B, that'd be the 3 chord. The minor 3. Okay. Okay, so here we are in number 5, and we're in the alto clef. So that means the middle line will be C. So we have a C sharp, E, F sharp, and an A sharp. C sharp, F sharp, A sharp. Okay, so if we put the C up here, we have F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, right? And that would be the F sharp major triad. And it's a 6-4. It has a C sharp in the bass. So that's second inversion. All right, you can see it, a 6 to a 4th. And in the key of B minor, the F sharp major would be the 5 chord. So we'll do 5, 6, 4. And here we go, a root position 7th chord, a super snowman. We have G, B flat, D, F. That is a diminished triad with a minor 7th. So that is a half diminished 7th. That'd be G, half diminished 7th. And we know that G is the leading tone in the key of A flat. So that would be a 7, half diminished 7. Okay. Now number 9, we have E flat, G, B flat. That's E flat major. And in the key of G minor, that would be the 6th chord, the major 6. All right. And here we are, the key of D, D, F sharp, A. We have, see that? That's a 1 chord. In second inversion, you can see the 6, 4. So it'd be 1, 6, 4. Okay. Now C sharp minor. We have a C sharp, F sharp, A. So another 6, 4. So if we put the C sharp up on top, we would have F sharp, A, C sharp. That'd be F sharp minor. Okay, and then the key of C sharp, that would be the 4 chord, minor 4, and 6, 4. Okay, and here we are in A major. We have A, C sharp, D, F sharp. So that's a 7th chord. And you can see here the 4, 3, right? A to D is a 4th, and then A to C sharp is a 3rd. The 4, 3 is a second inversion, right? 7, 6, 5 is first, 4, 3 is a second inversion. So root, first inversion, second inversion. Now if we stack these up, D, F sharp, A, C sharp, that would be the D major 7th chord. So D major 7th over A. The D is A, B, C sharp, D. That's the 4 chord. It's major, right? And 4, 3 tells us that it's a 7th chord in second inversion. Oops, I'm sorry. That is a 4 major 4, 3. Okay. We need to put that major sign so we're able to distinguish it from a major 7th and a dominant 7th, whereas the dominant 7th we don't use the M. So okay, so we're done with this chapter, and I hope it's going well for you in music theory, and I hope that filling these out and seeing the triads and 7th chords is getting easier, as well as recognizing the inversions. I hope you're learning your key signatures, and I guess that's it, and I will see you in the next chapter. Bye now.